hard to exaggerate, right? How big this is. So on many fronts, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that we see now, on the heels of Virginia last month and New Jersey,
Yes.
strong turnouts for Democrats in suburbs. The African-American vote, which people were very nervous about when we saw those first exit polls that said 30%, looks like 29. Those are higher percentages than Obama had.
Yes.
They were turning
Yes.
out. The folks, and I went door to door in Virginia. They're energized. I wrote a column on this, all this inside the Beltway talk about how, these candidates aren't that strong, how they don't have that much zip. This is all BS. I mean, folks were out there in droves voting. In Alabama and in Virginia, New Jersey. And the other point to make is, despite his tweet this morning that he was for Luther Strange, and, he's backed two losers here, and both in the primary and the general in Alabama. There's a problem. I mean, when you're at 32% nationally, even though you're higher in Alabama, you are not as high as you were when you were running against Hillary Rodham Clinton.
He carried Alabama, Donald Trump, we're talking about 28 points.
I have to say, I've talked about this many times on the show. I said very vocally that Roy Moore was going to win. I thought Roy Moore was going to win. I was just in Alabama over the summer, and by my eye, it is still very, very much Trump country. But this, this shoots, look, I was wrong. There's no other way to put it. I mean, I was wrong.
It was a very close race.
I get
could
that.
have gone either way.
I get that.
But you
still,
know what?
I thought it was going to be not close.
I mean, what Mark Putnam is a great media consultant who worked for me for many years, did the independent expenditures down there. They did some very good ads in this race. And he and I have been talking over the last several weeks. And he thought about a week, 2 weeks ago that those Republicans were coming home.
Yeah.
Some of the polls were showing that. And initially they were appalled. And then they thought, well, this looks like a conspiracy. These crazy Washington people are trying to come in, tell us what to do. Well, yeah, that played with some of the folks, but enough of them went for the right candidate, and they finally said, "Hey, okay."
Yeah.
But basically, these are turnout models in these local races.
Yep.
These are very important. Looking to 2018,
it was in
and 20.
Virginia and it was in Alabama.
Absolutely.
And we have to give credit to Doug Jones. I mean, a lot of us are nervous about, I think, the kind of campaign he was running. We hear all about Roy Moore. We don't hear much about Doug Jones. But he was just a steady workhorse building a good operation.
Right.
And it certainly paid off,
And he was non-threatening, Bill.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy, the one issue, which is tough for him. And
Abortion.
He said, I'm pro-choice, and that's it. He didn't back away, didn't play around. But, when he was talking about guns, he says, he says, I've got my guns. I use my guns when I'm in the blind, when I'm hunting. I don't wave a little pistol on the stage. I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
And, Roy Moore's a phony.
Yeah.
Roy Moore is a very bad guy. The people of Alabama rejected him twice. They threw him off the Supreme Court. And this is not a good guy. Yeah. And yet he had the right rhetoric. He had Steve Bannon, who everybody thought was this political genius. Listen, to me, Steve Bannon, keep it coming, baby. Go into any state you want. Keep recruiting your candidates because now the other part of this lesson from Virginia, New Jersey, and Alabama, a lot of money is going to flow to the Democratic Party for their candidates. Folks are energized. And number two, we got a lot more candidates who are signing up. We have a lot more women candidates. In that Virginia race, 10 or 11 now maybe of the 15 seats we picked up were picked up by women candidates. They are voting. And again, in Alabama, if you looked at the difference, look at where women came down, look where men came down.
Yeah.
They get the message with the Donald Trump.
This was an unwinnable election for Doug Jones in Alabama. That is what everybody would have you believe.
Right.
Yeah.
And he won in an unwinnable state, in an unwinnable seat. Imagine how people in Michigan, Minnesota, other places where you're going to see these more big elections that were either toss up or winnable for Democrats. I mean, you've got to feel the wind at your back here.
Well, and we shouldn't get this is still going to be very hard. We got a tough road to hoe here. But in terms of getting the Senate back, the numbers are terrible for us, as we know. We have to defend all these seats. Some of them are in tough states that Trump won. But having one more seat in our column in 2018 is big.
It's a big deal.
I mean, I think people will start talking now about taking that House back, taking the Senate back, in 2020 having a new president. But, what's going to happen here is these guys are overreaching. You look at EPA, you look at the Department of Interior, good grief. We start turning around the policies of this horrendous administration and they pass some of this stuff. We get power back. It won't take us 2 seconds.
I know.
We talked about this before, but it is true. Democrats are such bedwetters, And I keep hearing this. I just had a dinner party over the weekend, too. Oh, well, the Democratic Party doesn't have its message together. They don't know what they're doing and everything. And I just said, hey, listen, the Democratic Party is getting its stuff together. Right. I mean, and so there is that nervousness, if you will. But there's nothing like a win like this to energize people, right? Again, given the fact we had the worst for the Republicans, the worst possible candidate, the best possible for us, but still, it's a huge win, and it will bring people, candidates, and money and resources, because people are going to feel, hey, hell, we took New Jersey, we took Virginia, we took fucking Alabama.
And we've got governor's races up that we can take. Here's the interesting thing. You and I remember this well. 1980, young bucks. You're in California. I'm running this group, Democrats for the 80s, Democrats in my 80s, maybe, nowadays. But, everybody was devastated when Ronald Reagan got elected. Boy, we got creamed. We lost the Senate. We lost like 12 Senate seats. And, everybody kept wringing their hands. We have no messenger. We have no message. Yeah. Baloney. We had a message. We went into 1982 and we won 26 House seats. and everybody went, wow, this isn't so terrible. And then, it took us a while, but 86 we got the Senate back. And look, this works in cycles. But, now folks know how to organize. Now they know how to target. Now they know how to put money into these races. And somebody asked me, geez, why didn't we do more with the black vote? This is before the turnout yesterday. I said, hold your horses. Yeah. We're doing a lot with the black vote.
Again, Doug Jones was building that with the help of this new mayor of Birmingham and others. He was building that through in areas where they had to and get out that vote. So like 96% of the black vote he got statewide. White women with a college degree, 46%. This is the suburban soccer mom, if you will, they used to call them, right? Yep. Who are kind of fed up with the Republican Party, and it's people like Roy Moore and Donald Trump.
See, this is why everybody says, well, he's toast in 2020. It could be a tough race, no question. I mean, I'm not poo-pooing this, but I'll tell you, he's a senator that they can respect. He's someone who speaks his mind and is not over the top. And, look, the South is changing. I mean, not as fast as we want, and it certainly was a bad year, this last one. But I don't go with this thing that the South is full of a bunch of racist crackers. I mean, that is not true. You look at the Huntsville, as you say, Birmingham, some of these areas, and the more they show, the Democrats show that they can govern and get stuff done and really deliver. Then, folks, look. I mean, look at Kansas. Go ahead and do some stupid tax cut proposal which kills the schools. I don't care what political party you belong to. You don't believe in that.
Yeah.
And, Louisiana, same thing.
58% of women for Doug Jones, right? Again, you mentioned the women's vote. Yeah. Here's what really impressed me. Young people, 18 to 29, Jones got 60%. And he's no Bernie Sanders. 60%. Of the millennials.
See, this is where I would worry if I were a Republican. I'd worry about these trends. Because if everybody used to tell me, well, all these older people, they seem to be Republicans. I said, hey, they came to the Republican Party with Ronald Reagan in 1980. They hadn't left. And what's happening now is we're getting a lot of young people who say, you guys are nutso on social issues. And more. I mean, let's face it. Homosexuality should be a crime. Really?
Right.
I mean, in today's world, do you believe that? Yeah.
I'm proud that my little interview with Roy Moore back in 2005, where he said that, played a big part in this campaign.
Absolutely.
Even yesterday, as Peter pointed out, the New York Times, what's it called? The Daily. The Daily was playing replaying my interview
Yeah,
where Roy
yeah.
Moore told me it's a crime. It's
It was
illegal.
all over Facebook
Yeah,
and Twitter
yeah.
when this campaign first started, and I
Right,
thought, boy,
right.
Bill, you nailed this guy.
Well, it's you hit on a bunch of interesting points there because I do think the South has a lot of growing up to do, and I do still think that it is, for the most part, a pretty red area, but it also sort of mirrors what's happening in the country, right? Like every southern state has a couple of pockets of very, very blue, right? Like Birmingham in Alabama is a blue city, full on, right? I mean, they elected essentially a socialist as their mayor in Randall Woodfin, and good for them for doing it. But it's also, you know, a lot of people will say, "Oh, Roy Moore lost because of this scandal with the young girls that he was hitting on and having relationships with," and that's true. But at the same time, that sort of is the Republican Party now. I mean, I'm sorry, that's who Donald Trump is.
Yeah.
They all lined up to support Roy Moore. Whether or not that, like, every member of the Republican Party is guilty of that, they at least enable it.
Right.
And that should be enough to piss you off enough to vote Democrat.
Right. You have the polarization, but my point on this is what's happening when you got a president that's at a 32% approval rating nationwide and lower in some of these other places.
Yeah.
Is that folks are really saying, okay, you know, I thought I was voting for change, but not this kind of change. You know, I thought I was tired of normal. You know, normal Washington. I don't like it. Well, I want to get rid of normal. Well, I thought I was going to get good normal. I got bad normal.
Right.
And you know, people, you know, we put them always into, you know, hard R, hard D, you know, liberal, conservative. Most people, not maybe the ones who we were talking to in this show, I mean, they're pretty liberal folks, a lot of them. But a lot of these people just want to see government work for them.
Yeah.
And that's, if you can show, as you say, you got, and it's on the local level. You put together local city council folks, local mayors. You play everywhere. This is the key for the Democratic Party. We start playing the coasts. That's our problem.
Yeah.
We're screwing up. We should be playing everywhere. Does that mean you put the exact same amount of resources everywhere? Of course not.
No.
But you give people a choice.
I keep, you know, we've had the Chairman Tom Perez in here several times. He says every zip code counts, right?
Yes.
And every district counts. And field a Democrat in every district for school board, for city council, for state legislature, all the way up. And we're going to win a lot of them.
And that's what we did in Virginia. I
Yes.
mean, that's what
Yeah,
we did.
I know.
They filled those slots. They had good people in them. And in this case, you had a wave. And some people said, look, I don't know. I don't know who that person is, but whatever. They're not the person that's in there. And I'm sick and tired of this Republican.
Right.
And I'm going to just vote no.